Hey everybody, we're back making a new video. It's been quite a while, and due to the current crisis, that is exactly why it's been so long since I made a video. I work in healthcare, and we support, our IT supports all the doctors, nurses, and people that are on the front lines that are handling all this. So basically since the beginning of March, it's been pretty hectic around here, although I am grateful to be working from home. So I figured I'd try and squeeze in, at least get this video started and hopefully get it up before the end of this week. So here I am with, I actually took this apart already. I spared you the details of pulling this apart, but I have an original silhouette that needs some really extensive work. So this is pretty pitted and rotten, but I'm going to do my best to get it back to life in some semblance of what it used to be. It looks like well, it was. I stripped the paint, but it looks just like the regular green. You can see some of it still sitting in here. So without further ado, I'm going to get started on sanding this body. The plastics were in really good shape. Although this looks a little ratty, that will buff up, and we'll get that in some floor shine and get that zip back up. This is in really good shape, the interior plastic, and even the motor. I've gotten these before where either one of the sides or both of the sides were cooked, but this looks pretty good. Top of the motor looks a little ratty, but we can probably do something with that. So I'm going to start the top of this with some steel wool, just as not to go so deep. I want to see what I can pull back on the surface that's still good while revealing what's really bad. And I got a funny feeling that I'm going to take most of this zinc covering off, the original zinc coating off. So I'm just using some 3 steel wool just to get started, and then I'll see where I sit. On another note, I hope everybody is safe and well. This whole crisis seems to be, I don't know what it seems to be, but I don't really want to talk about it too much, but I do want to acknowledge it and hope that everybody is okay. So we're going to move along to, so the good parts came up and buffed nice, but the bad parts are bad. So there's no doubt that this is going to have to be something where I attack it aggressively with some, maybe and I mean aggressively, not in a really abrasive way, but maybe in a 400 grit to start. If I need to go higher than or lower than 400 grit to get this pitting out, then I'll have to do that. I don't want to damage it though, or at least I don't want to damage it any more than it is, and I want to provide a good surface for a nice zinc bath so it sticks and we have a nice surface. So I'll continue with this and I'll be back. So I went through a few different grits. I actually ended up using one of these fine files. It actually has some corner abilities. The file actually wraps around the corner. I don't know if you can see that on the edge. So there are a few areas that still had some flashing on it, and I got rid of those and got rid of most of the pitting. There's a couple more pits right around here, tiny, but I think I can get those out without digging too far into the actual metal and getting below the zinc surface. I managed to save most of the existing zinc that was on there. And we'll see. There were a couple of corners that were really tight to get into. That's why I used this needle file. And I managed to get all of the original paint, save a few specks. I'm going to go back and I'm going to use this. This is a very well used wire wheel. You can see that it's almost on its last legs, but it's good for getting in the corners. So I'll get in there and do that. And then I will do the final sanding, I guess. Make sure it's smooth enough and there won't be any divots or highs or lows, or actually lows, that will show off when I do the zinc coating. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so now I'm pretty much in the zone, I think. I got rid of those pits. There were actually pits on both sides. Right in here. And pits on this side too, in the same spot. I saw them after, which are now virtually gone. They are gone. So I actually went back as far as 150 grit, which is pretty heavy duty on a soft metal like this. But I used it with very light pressure. So we got rid of the pitting. I actually went back and used the needle file again. And after I went over this with 150, I evaluated again, and then I went to 400, and 2,000, 1,000, and then 2,000. And hopefully the heavy scratches are gone. And we'll get ready to dip this. So before I dip, I'm going to grab some denatured alcohol and clean this body off pretty well. Well, not pretty well, but well. And then we'll get ready to dip. So I'm going to switch over some things here and show you my dip process for zinc. Okay, so we're back. First thing is, this is the solution, the pre-made solution that I've made for the zinc dip. Our part is hanging on a piece of metal. The straw is used to span the top of the jar. Let me get this off of here. Okay, positive lead goes on the zinc strip that we're using as the, this zinc will leach into the solution. This is a brand new solution, so it's still pretty clear. As it, the more I use it, the more this will start getting into a light grayish color. And put the negative lead on. Let me turn this around. We'll put the negative lead on the side that the piece is hanging from or connected to. And then this is just a double A. Of course, this won't open up now, but I want to show you. These are 2D batteries, 1.5 volts each, puts out 3 volts. Usually, I've heard anywhere between 2.5 to 4 volts is optimal for doing this zinc plating process. I've used this numerous times and it does work. So you don't need to get one of those fancy plating machines. You can do it with this. So once your leads are connected and everything, you're safe, just turn this on and you can see bubbles. So that is the reaction. You're getting bubbles on your piece and even smaller bubbles on your diode, if that's what you want to call it. So the diode is leaching the zinc coating from, this is just a piece of roof flashing, zinc roof flashing. So the zinc is leaching into the system or into the solution, and the negative charge is drawing to the body of the car. So usually about 10 minutes at a pop. Because this is a fresh solution, I'm going to go 20 minutes, see where it stands, and then I can go from there. I could always redo it or do it again. So the other thing I'm going to do here is, this is my mason jar full of CLR, calcium lime rust remover, and I use this for the oxidation on the metal bottoms. Normally, I would remove these axles before I dip, but these axles, I don't know if I'm going to end up even using them. I may have to replace them. So these are the tough ones to replace because they're crimped in. If I can salvage them with just straightening them out, I will. I'm not going to worry though about these. I guess they're just nylon bushings. So I know they're aged 51 years, maybe 52 years. But I'm going to dunk them into CLR anyway. I'm not going to worry about it because I could always, I could replace them. So this is a straight 100% mix. This is not diluted. This is right out of the bottle. And I just cap it. Okay, and this is actually a brand new mix too. So this is a fresh bottle that I poured in here. No more 10 minutes max. You could end up doing more damage than helping. So I'll keep those timed. You can see this is cooking pretty good here. This is starting to cloud up, which means what I mentioned is working. Zinc is being put in and it's collecting. Oh, I can actually pull this out. Maybe you can see that this is starting to turn a little gray. It's a little less shiny than it was when it went in. And that's the characteristic of zinc. As it leaches on or gets charged to a body part or another metal part, it turns gray. It's almost like a gunship or a battleship gray. So we're going to let that go, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back again. I actually went ahead and did a zinc plating on this. I ran this through twice and buffed it up. I'm going to buff it up again one more time before I go and paint it. I have the base dipped now, and what I'm going to do is show you the progress I've made on the other pieces here. So this is clean, ready to go back in. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this in any of the future shine yet or not, but we'll see when I get there. This cleaned up pretty well. I'm still going to use a chrome pen on this when the time comes. And right now we're going to attack the glass dome. I brought this out because this was one of the first ones I ever restored, and I purchased a brand new window. And this one, you can see the inside of this is in really good shape. It's pretty, I mean, it doesn't look like it was ever touched. Obviously it was in the car until I took it apart, so it was sealed. Just a little ring rash from this little roll bar, if you call it a roll bar, on this one. And I'm just going to buff it up a little bit and then put it in our future shine and call it a day. But this one I had restored prior to learning on learning about how to do the zinc coating. So while it came out pretty nice, it's not really spectra-flame-ish in appearance. It's still a clean, restore. I don't think I'll go back and redo it with zinc plating since it's done. I kind of like the look of it. But I may do this one. I may paint in the same, this is the antifreeze yellow. So I may do this one in antifreeze yellow just to see the comparisons. One spot on here in the back where there's that little scratch right there. So that was in the body 2 coats of zinc. I could probably do 1 more, but I don't know. I think the paint will. It's not. It's not a divot or a low spot. It's just a scratch that was, I guess, from all the oxidation, and it just never came out. And I don't want to go any deeper than what I already did. But the rest of the body's looking good. I'll give it 1 quick buff and a nice cleanup before I paint it. So we're going to do this right now, and I'm going to get some. I'm going to get my Fred eraser, because I think all I'm going to need, and you've probably seen me use the Fred eraser in previous videos. Basically, it's a 4000 grit eraser that's used for guitar repair. So it acts basically just like an eraser, just what it's named for. So it's got a very, very, very high grit, and you can see it already erased that line. So there's no need for any heavy sandpapers on this particular piece. Most of the time, if I see something that has a crazy scratch in it, or something that I know is going to cause me an issue or grief, I'll start with 1000 grit paper. I don't start any lower than that, because then it really tends to make scratches, and we don't want scratches. It's bad enough that most of them already do have scratches when we undertake these restorations. So I'll normally start with a 1000 grit, then a 2000 grit, and finish with this. In this case, since the scratches weren't that deep, and I just want to make that nice dull looking glaze across the glass, I didn't need to. So I just used this instead, got rid of the little ring rash that was there, and we'll just make this little hazy gray uniform look go throughout all of the glass on the outside, and make sure it's one consistent look. And then I will shoot it with a little Windex to clean it off, get my any grease or oils from my fingers off, and dip it in our Pledge Future Shine. I think this is going to come out pretty nice. I got one more little spot that looks like could use a little more attention. So this piece of this windshield, we call them glass, but they're not glass. These pieces of plastic are very brittle most times. This one is a larger piece, so I can exert a little bit more pressure because of its construction. It's basically not something that's going to break, but it's not to say you're going to treat each one the same. So be careful with these. A lot of times I'll take the piece and I'll rub the piece, making sure I have a nice grip, and I'm reinforcing the back side, and I'll just rub it across the eraser rather than rub the eraser across the piece, where I might be more likely to damage it. So I think this is done. I'm happy with that. I'm going to get my Future Shine wherever I have it. There it is. So here's my little bottle of Future Shine. Some Windex, and we're just going to clean this off. So a little squirt. We'll get this cleaned up, and you can see that's just some Windex laying on there, that this will be a nice piece when it's all said and done and dipped. So we'll open up our jar. We get sticky. And I will get a cover. Okay, so we're going to slide that in. I think I'm going to do the interior too. Why not? So we'll get the interior in too. Okay. this piece of towel to blot. Get my tweezers. So here's our glass. Oops. To make sure that didn't leave a mark. Okay, that's good. And here is our interior. I apologize. I don't know if the camera's picking this up in the background, but I'm in the basement, obviously. And my furnace is kicking off because we still have some cold temperatures here in New Jersey. A nice balmy 40 degrees today with a little bit of rain that happened. And, you know, I'm still heating. So if you hear any noise in the background, I apologize. So let's get that tapped off. Leave that upside down so all of those little pockets in the seats will drain. Okay, I'm back. I had an issue. So I got the base polished up after the zinc dip. Surprisingly, considering the shape it was in before it went in for its little dip, it's pretty good. The issue I had was in straightening out. I figured while I had the base in my hands, I would straighten out these axles. And as I had suspected and stated earlier, that I probably would end up maybe breaking one. And I did. So as I was straightening this one, it just literally disintegrated and the bushing fell apart. So I had to grind out this little weld in here. I don't know how well that shows up. To remove. Okay, I removed the back half. This isn't one of the one-piece axles that slides in like a little, like a bobby pin. These are two pieces separately, and they have a quick solder joint, like a tack, in two spots. Luckily, the front tack really didn't tack onto the axle itself. So I was able to get this one apart, pry it up, and then I slid the axle out the front. I found a donor car. I had the body or the bottom of a custom Cougar that only had one axle in it. So I cut it and I slid the axle underneath the crimp just as I removed the other one. And then back here, all I'm going to do is mix up a little bit of this Gorilla Weld and just basically glue that down. And I literally only need a smidge for this to happen. So I'm going to mix this up real quick. If I can find my little mixer. I'm going to mix up a little bit here. That Gorilla Weld is basically 1-to-1. So if you put a little drop, just match it. Oh, this might be a little bit. This should be enough. Only looking to tack it down because it's staying in under this axle or under this crimp. I'm just looking to a little extra assurance on here, so I'm just gluing this in because there's no way to now make a new crimp on this body. So let me take the toothpick on here, get this off my mixer, and I'm just going to put a little dabble-do-ya in here, and that should stay just fine because this Gorilla Weld is pretty awesome. And nobody's going to be playing with this. It's not going to be a car that's going to be forced on the ground in the carpet just like we used to do when we were kids. And there you go, that's it. Just a little schmutz on that spot. And I'm actually going to let that dry overnight before I actually mount up and start painting the bottom and painting the top, which now, you know, kind of just lends to me having another day before I finish this video. So I'd rather have it right and not have any issues, because we know how that goes when you rush something with these little pieces, and next thing you know, you're throwing bricks. So that's going to be it for now, but I will be back and get this finished. Alright guys, I'm getting ready to do some paint on this lovely silhouette body. I'm only going to show you the top half. So my compressor is on, my lovely paint booth is on, and as I said, I'm going to go with the antifreeze green, and I mix these right inside the cup. I do not bother mixing them separately. So, since I'm doing two halves of this car, I'm looking for basically a full cup of paint. And then I will add the hardener to the cup. Just tightening up the paint bottle here. Plenty of hardener. Sometimes I go a little overboard with the hardener, but I like the fact that the hardener allows you to actually touch the model after you're done. And now I'm just going to get a little back pressure to help mix this up and spill some while I'm at it. That's good. So always have your denatured alcohol ready for this, just in case you make a little mess. I try and get this off. If I do spill, I try and get this off right away, because it's really a urethane-based paint. So it's got a little mixing bubbles going on here. Getting that hardener mixed up in there. Alright, so that's ready to go. Let me get a glove. Here we go. So the secret for this is light coats, a little bit of air in between coats, and because it's so tacky, the color does build up pretty fast. So we got a little color coat going on there. It's looking pretty nice. We'll let it dry a little bit, hit it with another coat. Sometimes, depending on the final color you're looking for. I mean, I've done up as far as 8 coats, with the last coat being really heavy and that color really getting to the look that I want. So that's really the secret with these. So I'm just going to keep on going here.
can see that color starting to come up pretty nice. I would say there's probably, I don't know, 3 coats for me. I think I'm going to get 2 nice color coats and then 1 heavy coat at the end. Make this a little bit of a deeper antifreeze green or yellow, whichever you prefer. So I'm going to keep going.
Alright, we're back again, hopefully this time to finish completely. So, as you can see, I got my 2 painted parts here. I finally finished. I managed to get that bearing back on and in place with my glue. It seems to be holding. It might be a little wonky, but for intents that we're creating this piece or redoing this piece, it will be fine. So what I want to do now is get some paint, chrome paint on this motor. So I already dipped my chrome pen and got a little puddle going in there, so I can apply this with a brush and make it smooth. I'll give this a nice little shot of life. Yeah, these chrome pens are a big deal. It's too bad they're so pricey, but I do enjoy the results. This tends to be a there's a little bit of a system of doing this with paintbrush so you don't streak. If you can get everything good in one stroke, it tends to dry better, it levels off. Oh, this ought to be fun. How am I going to get this? Very carefully, that's how. So let's do this. Turn this around. Let's do this. I have not tried to thin this chrome paint, like making it like a wash, like you do with some of the other colors. I'm sure it would work. To what degree, I'm not sure. So we've got our chrome. Our motor's back to some sort of life. Surprised that it even survived 50 years or 51 years. Alright, we had a little GoPro malfunction there. So that's why there's an abrupt cut here. But while I'm still waiting for that motor to dry, I'm going to apply my wheels and get those cooking. Well, that's good so far. This is going to be the suspect wheel right here with my donor axle. Just want to make sure I do that without bombing it out. That looks pretty good. Kind of happy with that. Now this one is number 4, and this one needs a little more force. She's listing to the right a little bit, so we'll make a little adjustment there with our Redline tool. Let's see if we can get this axle just a little more cooperative. I never get these right. Never ever get these right. Let's try one more here. See what we got. That's better. All right, we have wheelage. She's been shoed up with some new reproduction wheels. She's standing okay. She's not listing. Doesn't look like it anyway. Maybe this one needs to come down a little bit. Let's see. Oh. And now we're going to the F. Let's see what we can do here. Ooh. You know what? For all intents, we're going to live with that for now. And let's see if we can get our car back together. I know I'm going to have a problem with this post in the back because I managed to rip it when I was doing the right there. I ripped a piece off of it. So, not sure how that's going to work out as far as the screw. But we're going to figure it out. It's the best we can do. So we got our dome glass in our interior. This might be interesting because I don't remember how I installed this on the last car, but I think it might be okay. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's use this one for reference. So that just kind of hangs out on there, huh? I guess that's it. Let's put this on. See if we can get that. Oh, looky there. Looking pretty good. So let's get this first screw in. This one I know will take. So at least the front half is in and tight now. This looks like it's sitting properly. Let's see if we get lucky. We get enough thread in there to catch, which would be a joyous moment. If not, we might be looking at a little bit of glue. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, I made it. Well, that is a joyous moment. But this looks like we need to get it a little bit deeper. This one off. Got some funkies on it. Let's see if this can go in a little bit further. And it did. Well, that turned out better than planned. Now, this was the first one that I restored with just a silver metallic base coat and then the antifreeze green spectra-flame over it. Let's see if you can tell the difference. I think the reflective properties on this one are clear to see that with the zinc coating, well, it still has the same kind of color value, although this one looks a little greener. I'm sure the glare from the lights don't really help, but this is clearly spectra-flame what the idea of spectra-flame should be. So all that's left to do on this is really paint the red taillight in the back. I think I'm going to do that off camera. But for all intents, this car is complete. I'm happy with it. Even though I had the little mishap with the axle, which actually, this is the axle right here that I had to put back in. I'm sorry, it's this one. This one had to be replaced. But she's still rolling. And hopefully has another 51 years of life left in it. That's it for now. I think we're going to call this a wrap I'm sorry it's taken so long to get a video up, but you know, this whole crisis that we're in and craziness that we're dealing with kind of held me back a little bit. So we're gonna probably, I don't know, I'm gonna try for once a month. I don't know how hectic my job is going to continue to be, but I'm glad I was able to make this. Make sure everybody knew I was still out here and doing videos. That's it for now, guys. I hope everybody's safe and well, and we get through this as best we can. But don't forget to like and subscribe. Send me comments. You know, send me ideas too. I'm looking to, you know, get a little bit of a following, and maybe we can do some stuff together. We can do some of these. You know, we can swap cars or come up with car ideas. I actually posted a few videos back about a 57 Chevy idea. I've got 5 of them sitting on the peg up there. So if anybody wants to go into a little, not necessarily a competition, but I'll disperse the 5 cars. We'll each come up with a different idea, and we'll customize it, and we'll have a go at it. So go back and look for that video. And thanks again for subscribing and paying attention to this little part of the YouTuber world. So that's it for now, guys. Be safe. Talk to you soon.